World of cars and bikes. Today in this segment, we're going to give you a detailed look at the India spec 4th gen Nissan X-Trail.
We check out its interiors, features, what should you do, what should you look out for. This is an overdrive review.
A new Nissan has become a bit of a rarity on our roads these days, but the company says that things are about to change. But what has us more excited is the car that's leading this. It's the Nissan X-Trail, which is back in India after a gap of over 10 years. So can it shake things up? Let's find out. The Nissan X-Trail has grown quite a bit since it was last here, which makes this SUV hold its own in a segment where size matters. That said, there are flashier, larger options still. Similarly, the X-Trail takes a more restrained approach with its details, but the large V-shaped grille and the wide tiered headlamps make their presence felt. You have some neat practical touches like the closing air dam covers and a good 210 mm of ground clearance. These go well with the simple shapes and the tall, functional glass area. Nissan has broken from the norm and fitted the X-Trail with large 20-inch wheels. These give the car a fuller look and a good stance. Now, one of the things that Nissan is talking about with the X-Trail is its practicality, but what you have is not a powered tailgate, which is something you expect in a car in this segment. But once you open the boot, you realize that even with all the 3 rows up, there's a decent amount of space here. You can put, say, a small backpack or 2 here. And yes, you can also fold these flat, and that's when you have a fairly usable boot space. Now, with these seats, you can't not choose them. They are always there in any version you pick. So yeah, you don't get a spare wheel, which we think will be a bit of an issue in India. But having said that, the load lip, as you can see, is flat. It's a flat floor, so big items. They're a bit of a lift, but once inside, they should be easy to fit. The styling here continues with that simple, unfussy theme with the mildly contoured bootlet and fairly catchy rear lights, although full LED setup is missing here. Now inside the X-Trail, you notice that it has that typical Japanese sort of simplicity and practicality, even in the way the interiors look. Now, yeah, the design itself is pretty simple and straightforward. It's nothing extraordinary, nothing flashy, over the top, nothing of that sort. But yeah, the colors and textures really do make a difference. In fact, I would say that they are quite a highlight of this car. Now that also continues with the stitching, and even on the doors, if you notice the wearing texture, for example, the fabric inserts here, or even the stitching here, or even this sort of brushed wood finish. So overall, it's quite an inviting space, even though the colors might not be all that bright. But again, what takes this experience a step further are the controls. For example, I'll just show you. Everything there's a physical control for. All the ACs have these big chunky knobs that you can use very easily without being distracted. Same for the touchscreen controls, big chunky buttons. This gear selector here, it feels really expensive to use with this electronic sort of action. And that also continues, as you'll see, with this nice damped action to the stalks and to these buttons on the steering wheel. The center console here has good space with its open lower section and the deep storage bin. You get both Type A and Type C charge ports as well as a wireless charger. Most controls here are well placed too. That being said, the door pockets could have been larger. In this context, the small 8-inch touchscreen feels out of place. It seems like the same unit that was used on the Kicks 5 years ago and feels like such in practice. The graphics have been updated and it is a generally competent system that's easy to learn with its physical controls, but the fluidity and responses leave much to be desired. In stark contrast to this is the 12.3-inch driver's display. This is easy to read and configure, information is easily accessed, and you have some uniquely detailed gauges for the engine that add a bit more to the experience. Now, given that practicality has been a big theme with this car, that also translates into the way the X-Trail drives, and it's apparent really as soon as you start driving. So what you notice is that the view out is good. The windows, they have this low sill, so there aren't too many blind spots. You can see the bonnet, the edges of it pretty clearly, and even the driving position, you sit high up like how you want to in an SUV. Everything falls to hand easily. These armrests, they just fit you perfectly. The seat is really quite supportive. The Nissan X-Trail, like before, brings with it a fresh execution of what a premium SUV can be like. The cabin is great in the first two rows, as much as the opinion might be split on how useful the third row is. The cabin's rich ambience, despite some notable feature lapses, is also a win for Nissan. The powertrain also seems more effective in the real world than on paper, but we hope Nissan gets its pricing right in a segment that has some strong established brands.